Thank you everyone for joining us. My name is Charlie Prattville. I'm the Central Jersey organizer for Food and Water Watch. We're an environmental group that has been actively fighting the proposal for a new gas power plant in the Caseby section of Woodbridge, and I want to thank you all for being with us today. I want to also thank everybody who made this event possible, including the City of Perth Amboy for allowing us to use this beautiful space here, the Al Jankowski Center, and all the groups that sponsored this event. I'm just going to read them off right now. Thank you so much to our very first sponsor, the NAACP Perth Amboy branch, also the NAACP Metuchen Edison area branch, the New Jersey State Conference of the NAACP Environmental and Climate Justice Committee, the Empower New Jersey Coalition, Divest New Jersey, New Labor, the Rutgers AAUP AFT, Our Revolution Middlesex County, Indivisible Central New Jersey, 350 New Jersey Rockland, Water Spirit, Central Jersey Environmental Defenders, and the New Jersey Environmental Lobby. Thank you all for helping get the word out about this important public education event. I also want to give a special thank you to all of those who are volunteering today. Some of you met Sid in the back, who's helping to get folks signed in. And special thank you to Dan Jimenez, who is making it possible for folks who prefer Spanish language to be able to have the benefit of this information live translating today on the Zoom app. Also want to thank behind the camera, Amber Sarabia. Thank you for getting this on video. Of course, April Nicklaus, who's moderating the Zoom room and helping everybody to participate through Zoom. And of course, Marianne Nicklaus, who helped us set up. Thank you for doing that. So I'm also going to thank our special guest speakers as we move through the program. I do want to make a quick note. We are asking everyone who's here in person to please wear a face covering in accordance with the policy for the building. And thank you for your cooperation with that. We also, if you haven't signed in yet, please make sure you see Sid in the back and sign in so that we can keep in touch with you, keep you informed about this important environmental justice fight that we are all in together. But today is a day for anyone who wants to learn more about this project. And we hope to be able to provide you with some important and factual information about it so that you can get engaged and involved and help to protect our air, water, and climate. That's why we're all here today. So I am going to start with an overview of the project. And so this is the case against building another gas power plant in Middlesex County. This is what has been proposed. This is the second gas power plant that would be built in the Caseby section of Woodbridge. It would be the third gas plant in Woodbridge Township, and it would be the sixth gas plant in Middlesex County. You can see here, Perth Amboy is where we're at, and the Caseby gas plant is that red square. And you'll learn in just a second, if you didn't know already, that there's already one gas plant in this location, and the plan is to build a second one right next to it, essentially doubling the air pollution and the acceleration of climate change as a result of greenhouse gases. You can see it would affect not only New Jersey, but also Staten Island and all these other Central Jersey communities that you see listed here. So what's going on? There's one gas power plant that already exists in this location. It's 725 megawatts, which according to the company's website is enough to power every home in Middlesex County twice. Middlesex County has 300,000 homes, give or take. CPV says their first plant provides enough electricity for 700,000 homes. They broke ground on that facility in 2013, and it did open in early 2016. So it's been operational for now going on 6 years. And there was a broken promise associated with the development of that power plant. There was supposed to be a major restoration of the Raritan River waterfront in the Casby section of Woodbridge. And we'll show you in just a minute what that place looks like today. But the reason we're here today is because this company, CPV for short, is proposing another gas plant right next to the first one. And we'll show you what that site looks like shortly. The site plan was approved at the local level by the Woodbridge Township Planning Board. But in order for them to operate the facility, they still require a Title V air permit from the New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection. That's essentially permission to pollute the air. They need that permission from the state in order to do it. And that is a process that has been underway for years and is approaching a critical decision point, which is one reason that we're working so hard to educate the community about this right now, because the DEP is about to make a decision, could be very soon. This is CPV1 here. This is the power plant that Competitive Power Ventures opened in 2016. The gravel area here is where they want to build CPV2. If approved, the expanded facility would be one of the largest climate polluters in the entire state of New Jersey. The first plant emits roughly 2.3 million tons of greenhouse gases each and every year. And if the second one is approved and built, it would add an additional 2.3 million tons. This is from the air permit application that the company submitted to DEP. These are the quote potential emissions that they are asking for permission to be able to emit into the atmosphere. So it's not just greenhouse gases that we're concerned about. Anybody who is concerned about public health should be concerned about the air we breathe. And carbon monoxide, you all know, poisonous, toxic to human health. There's already 292 tons emitted every year, according to that air permit application. They want to add an additional 110 tons to that amount, making it for 402. Ammonia, another thing you don't want to be breathing in. If this plant gets built, there'll be 252 tons every year emitted from this facility. Nitrogen oxides are a key ingredient in the production of ground level ozone. So the more of these that exist, the more ozone that we have at the ground level. Now we want ozone in the ozone layer, and I'm sure some of you are familiar with that, but we don't want to be breathing it in ourselves. Ozone is bad, and this is one ingredient that leads to more of that at the ground level. This is perhaps the most concerning one, particulate matter. Particulate matter, there are two different measurements in the air permit application. So PM10 means particulate matter that's smaller than 10 microns, which is super small to begin with. But the more dangerous kind is particulate matter that is smaller than 2.5 microns. And you can see of the 223 tons of particulate matter that would be emitted if this facility is expanded, the vast majority of it is the more dangerous kind, the 2.5 or smaller. And the reason that this is such cause for concern is that the smaller particulate matter can travel much farther. It can travel hundreds of miles through the air. And then when you breathe it in, it can travel much farther and deeper into your lungs and embed in your lungs for the rest of your life, causing you health problems. So, for all of us who want to be able to breathe clean air, this proposal is something that stands in the way of that. There's also another ingredient in the production of ground level ozone is volatile organic compounds. You may have heard of VOCs before, and you can see that this would actually potentially emit more than the first power plant. about 50 additional tons of VOCs, making for a total of 83.3. And some other bad pollutants, sulfur dioxide, over 50 tons if they build the second plant. And then sulfuric acid, we're talking about that is basically a mist that comes out of the plant that is sulfuric acid, a very, very harmful chemical to be emitting into the air, let alone 25 tons of it, which is just what the second plant would emit under this air permit, if approved. There's also some more hazardous air pollutants. If they build it, it would be another 18.9 tons of those, and those include some things like lead and formaldehyde, things that we all know are harmful to human health, and in some cases can cause cancer and other illnesses and ultimately premature death in humans and animals. So I do want to address some of the issues with this company. This is Competitive Power Ventures. They did have one of their executives do some time in federal prison for conspiracy to commit wire fraud. This was related to essentially inappropriate influencing of the Governor Andrew Cuomo administration in New York State. There was an official in the former governor's administration who also did some time in federal prison as a result of this. There was a low-show job that his wife was given, actually partly involved going into the Woodbridge Township schools and indoctrinating the children to educate them about the benefits of gas infrastructure. And there was also other payments that were making their way to the Percocos. Ultimately, Peter Galbraith Kelly, who's you may know as one of the original partners in a law firm and lobbying firm, Black, Manafort, Stone, and Kelly. And yes, it is that Manafort and that Stone. Paul Manafort and Roger Stone were partners with this Peter Galbraith Kelly, who is often referred to as Braith Kelly. And Braith Kelly was instrumental in bringing the first gas power plant to this site in KSB. He was the one who was lobbying Woodbridge and interfacing with them to make that first one happen. He's no longer with the company and again, did some time in federal prison. CPV has actually been bought last year in January. A foreign company, OPC Energy, acquired them, and that company itself is owned by Kenon Holdings Ltd. And unfortunately, this new ownership has not changed course, and they continue to pursue the air pollution permits to build a second power plant here in little old Middlesex County. And here we are. This is a photograph I took about a year ago at the beautiful waterfront park. This is, of course, not a waterfront park. It was what was promised to be a waterfront park. It was supposed to open as early as 2016, but this photograph was taken last year. It looks much the same today. It is a contaminated wasteland. There is no park. It is off limits to the public, and indeed, I don't even think you can get this close as I was able to get last year today. Let's take a look at the public schools in the area. Children, the elderly, folks with respiratory illnesses already are the most vulnerable to these types of pollution. And you can see that there are over 220 New Jersey public schools within a 10-mile radius. And remember that particulate matter can travel hundreds of miles. But the closer you are, the more exposure you get. And so we're looking at some schools that are within 2 miles. We're looking at Perth Amboy entire school district within 3 miles of the gas plant site. And indeed, the county has some schools. The VOTEC school here in Perth Amboy, the VOTEC school in Woodbridge, and the Edison Academy that's on the campus of Middlesex County College, I believe. Those are all within that 3-mile radius. And this is not even counting private schools, daycares, or anything in Staten Island. which obviously does have plenty of schools and plenty of vulnerable communities as well. So we have put quite a bit of time into putting together this map just to show the impact on New Jersey public schools. And again, it is, by my count, 223 New Jersey public schools that fall within a 10-mile radius of this power plant. And just getting in a little closer, you can see Perth Amboy, where we're at today, about 2 miles from the site of the power plant. So definitely cause for concern for residents of Perth Amboy, and that's why we're here today. So what's the current status? The Department of Environmental Protection is in charge of approving or denying the air pollution permits for this plant. On March 10th, they informed CPV that their application was deficient, had some deficiencies needed to be addressed. They gave them a deadline of May 2nd, and CPV did submit additional documents and files just a couple weeks ago, April 29th. And so the DEP tells us that their standard review time is 30 to 90 days. So they are currently reviewing those additional documents, and we will soon learn whether the application is finally complete after all these years. If it is deemed complete, the public comment phase would begin. The DEP would draft would make a draft permit of what the air pollution permit would look like if approved, and the public will get a chance to comment on it. But that period of time is quite short. It can be just a couple of months, potentially could be longer, but it could be as quickly as, say, the fall that DEP is making a final binding decision on whether or not to approve this air permit. So now is the time for us to raise our voices, to get organized, and to stop this. So I'm going to try to play a video, and I hope that everyone in person and on Zoom is able to see it. It's 4 minutes long. This is the DEP commissioner, Governor Murphy's DEP commissioner. His name is Sean LaTourette. He is a resident of Middlesex County, and he responded to some questions I asked him at an environmental justice forum in Elizabeth on February 24th. So I just want to give you a chance to hear what I had to say and what he had to say. It's about 4 minutes.
We can't hear any sound on Zoom.
Killing people, and we know what is causing it. Overwhelmingly greenhouse gas emissions from burning fossil fuels. So I know that we're in a city tonight already overburdened, a city where lives were lost to Ida, and many of the neighboring communities are also overburdened. But at the end of the day, we all believe the same man, and we will all have to deal with the consequences of the climate crisis. I personally live in Middlesex County, where I've been actively fighting plans for another gas power plant in the Raritan waterfront, in Peasy, overburdened community of New Jersey's environmental justice law. I know you mentioned the differences between suburban communities and well-to-do communities and their way of influencing, citing projects like this. And I just want your reaction to the fact that your home community where you live has passed a strong resolution calling on you to reject the permits for this power plant and pollute the air people breathe all over Central Jersey and accelerate the climate crisis. Will you heed the call of your mayor and council and reject this proposal? And in the year 2022, why are we entertaining proposals to build more fossil fuel infrastructure projects with all of these now their impact on public health and our climate?
I appreciate that question. So first of all, I want to make sure that we're keeping this conversation about Union County and what the communities here would like to see us now and be responsive to, but there's no escaping the fact that we are in a climate crisis. To ignore that, to deny that is innocent. And what we have, and we also have to acknowledge that facilities all throughout our state and beyond our stakeholders contribute to the climate crisis. So while I am not allowed to tell you a predetermined outcome of any for our agency, right? That's a legal barrier when something is under consideration. Sort of like how a judge can't tell you how he or she or they will decide a case. I think what folks can take comfort in is that we have put forward some of the most aggressive climate action plans and rules in the country. And we're going to continue down that road. We've put rules in place, or proposed rules to limit pollution from stationary sources and wind power plants. We're going to continue moving aggressively down that path, one foot after the other, taking into very serious consideration those facilities, engaging communities as we must and as we want. It has our greatest attention. There are people at the Department of Environmental Protection working day and night to put forward the policies that's going to best protect the state.
Charlie, can you summarize what he said? Because it was very hard to read or to hear, sorry.
Thanks for letting us know. I'm sorry if the folks on Zoom couldn't hear it as well as others. So basically, he stated that he can't tell us how he's going to make his decision, saying he's not allowed to reveal a predetermined outcome on the permit, but he did admit there is a climate crisis. He said it would be lunacy to deny it, and that they're taking issues like this very seriously. But at the end of the day, he is a member of Governor Murphy's cabinet. And so that's the extent of what he said. Now I'm going to move on to the next slide. He is a member of Governor Murphy's cabinet. He serves at the pleasure of the governor. And ultimately, Governor Murphy has a lot of power in this situation to ultimately decide whether or not this permit's going to get approved. So it's important to keep that in mind while there is a commissioner of the DEP. He is there by virtue of Governor Murphy's nomination and serves at his pleasure. So we've got our work cut out for us. You can see here Governor Murphy and Mayor McCormick in Woodbridge. This is John McCormick, the longtime mayor of Woodbridge. He's been a supporter of CPVs, and indeed CPV had a quote on their website that said he would let them build 5 more power plants in Woodbridge if they wanted to. Said they were a very good corporate citizen. The Woodbridge Planning Board did unanimously approve the site plan for the second power plant in 2018. I was out at those hearings, and I will just say that they were not conducted in a very in a way that fostered public input. Indeed, people who tried to speak up were shut down and denied the right to testify. Woodbridge gave the power plant not only their site plan approval to build it, but the council also unanimously approved a long-term tax exemption such that if they do build it, they will not have to pay traditional property taxes for as long as 30 years. And that would basically exclude the school system from the payments that they do make and give them a very significant discount on what they would otherwise pay in the traditional property taxes that you might pay on your home or your business. So the Woodbridge Township political power structure is behind this, and let's not kid ourselves that is one of the most powerful political machines in the state of New Jersey. For a lot of reasons, but one of them being that the Speaker of the Assembly is from that political organization, and is a Woodbridge resident and a political representative of Woodbridge in the assembly, as well as the highest ranking member of the assembly. And yeah, that's essentially what we're up against here. But what can we do to stop this? Well, the first step is educating the public about this plan and the impacts that it would have on central New Jersey and on the climate. We all share the same planet, and the climate change impacts are going to affect people all over New Jersey, especially coastal communities, but even communities that don't have a riverfront or ocean front. We have already seen more extreme weather. We've seen things like wildfires on the West Coast produce smoke and other bad things to breathe in that make their way over here to the East Coast. And we do, of course, see tragedy when storms strike, and we've seen more and more extreme weather and extreme temperatures. So that's why we're here today, is the first step, educating the public. So thank you all for being here. We're also working to pass strong municipal resolutions opposing the plans. So far, Edison, Highland Park, Hoboken have all passed resolutions, unanimous in every case, calling on the governor to reject this application. Is Perth Amboy next? We sure hope so. I gave a presentation at the meeting just 3 days ago at their municipal council meeting. It was very well received, and there were members of the council that have asked to have a resolution on the next meeting agenda. We'll get to that at the very end, the municipal resolution campaigns. But this is a very effective tactic to get government leaders, current decision makers, to stand up and join us in this important environmental justice fight. We're also working to build a winning coalition of groups that represent diverse constituencies and care about protecting our people. So you heard some of the groups that sponsored this event. We have even more groups that have signed on to a letter to the governor. And if you're part of a group that wants to join the coalition, it's very easy. Just ask me, and we're happy to include you as we move forward. We do have almost 30 groups now that are signed on to that letter to the governor. And then this is something that all of us can do. If you haven't done it yet, I would ask that you do it today. It's as simple as sending an email, but we have prepared a what we call a message action, where you can complete this quick online form, and it will send a message to Governor Murphy's administration, as well as your representatives in the state legislature, your senator and your 2 assembly persons, to add your voice to the chorus of people who are opposed to this. We've had hundreds of people take this action, and it's something that you can do on your mobile device or your computer. It takes 30 seconds. So I would ask that if you're with us on the issue and you don't want to see this power plant built, please take a moment to do that. And an added benefit is, once you do that, you'll be added to the list of folks that we invite to events like this on this particular campaign. I'll get to some of those in a bit. And yeah, we need to take bold action to force officials to address this issue. It's an uncomfortable topic for many people, but there's a lot at stake. So, I guess it was last month that some of us were at the groundbreaking ceremony at the Perth Amboy train station, just a few blocks away from here, where Governor Murphy was. And folks were there protesting and raising their voices to let him know that this is something that the community cares about. And there were over a dozen people that came out on very short notice to make their voices heard on that particular day. And there's many other ways that folks can take that bold action to get this issue before decision makers so they can't avoid it. One great outlet we have is our municipal councils. In whatever town you live in, they're required to have public meetings where the public can speak. And unfortunately, despite our best efforts, many decision makers at the municipal level don't even know that this has been proposed. let alone the impacts it could have on their communities. So this is my good friend John Shu here speaking to his council in Edison, New Jersey. And after maybe a dozen meetings and a lot of hard work, not just John, but a number of other Edison residents were speaking up and attending those meetings regularly. We got it done. We got Edison to unanimously oppose the power plant. And that was the first town. But since then, we've got Highland Park, Hoboken, and the Highland Park Board of Education. So we do have some upcoming meetings where we'll be presenting to decision makers in my home city of New Brunswick on Monday. There's an environmental commission meeting. It is actually, I believe, going to be conducted remotely, and folks can join there and speak to the environmental commission about this. But we also have the Sayreville Municipal Council. I'm pleased to report Sayreville's Environmental Commission gave a unanimous recommendation to the borough that they should pass a resolution opposing this. So, armed with that recommendation, some of the Environmental Commission and myself and other people who live in Sayreville are going to come out to their next meeting is May 23rd. Metuchen also meeting at the same time, same night. And the Perth Amboy Council, as discussed, just got a presentation about this and is considering passing a municipal resolution of their own. Their next meeting where that might happen is May the 25th. So for all of you who are interested in this, especially if you're a Perth Amboy resident, please join us. Perth Amboy's Council does allow remote participation as well as in-person participation. So we have a nice mix of some people at the meeting who came in person and others who called in from wherever they were that night. And you can join us too at that next meeting on May the 25th. I hope you will. So that is my presentation about what's at stake here and what we're doing about it. But we do have some really excellent speakers who are going to provide different perspectives, and we're really lucky to have them. I want to thank them all for making the time to do this. Unfortunately, our first guest speaker was unavailable at this time, but he was kind enough to prepare a commentary on the project. Dr. Robert Lombach is an associate professor with the Rutgers School of Public Health and the Occupational Health Sciences Institute in Piscataway. And he submitted this video commentary that I'll play for you now. It's a little over 4 minutes.
Hello, my name is Paula Roven. I'm a medical doctor and scientist studying the health impacts of air pollution. I work at the
Okay, everyone, just bear with me. I made a little mistake when I shared, so I'm going to share the screen one more time and do it the right way. So now everyone should be able to hear Dr.
Hello, my name is Robert Lombach. I'm a medical doctor and a scientist studying the health impacts of air pollution. I work at the Rutgers School of Public Health and the Environmental and Occupational Health Sciences Institute in Piscataway, New Jersey. I appreciate the opportunity to speak to you today about the ways that air pollution can steal our health. I'm going to focus on the health effects of burning fossil fuels to generate electricity. You may hear from various sources that burning natural gas is a little cleaner than burning coal or oil. However, burning natural gas is still dirty because it produces huge amounts of carbon dioxide as well as many air pollutants that are toxic and can cause many adverse health effects. The proposed new power plant in Keasbey will be permitted to emit close to 2.5 million pounds of carbon dioxide every year. It will also release over 120 tons, or close to 250,000 pounds, of particle air pollution and even more nitrogen oxides every year. How do these air pollutants damage our health? The emissions of carbon dioxide from burning natural gas contribute to global heating of the atmosphere and climate change. Climate change is already impacting health, with more heat waves and more severe storms and flooding right here in New Jersey, as well as across the country and around the world. Particulate matter air pollution consists of tiny particles that can get deep into the lungs when we breathe them in. These particles are known to have effects not only on the lungs, but also on the heart, the brain, and other parts of the body. In addition to making asthma and other lung diseases worse, breathing these particles can cause heart attacks and strokes, and the air pollution particles can slow the growth and development of babies and children, starting with the increased risk of premature birth and low birth weight, followed by decreased growth in the lungs. The nitrogen oxides that are released from burning natural gas to produce electricity contribute to the formation of ozone in the atmosphere. Nitrogen oxides and volatile organic compounds, also released from natural gas power plants, react in the atmosphere in the presence of sunlight to produce ozone. Ozone is a toxic gas that worsens asthma and other lung diseases and has been associated with premature death. Most of New Jersey currently does not meet federal standards for ozone. Warmer temperatures due to climate change are predicted to make ozone even worse. In addition to the major air pollutants, particulate matter, and nitrogen oxides, burning natural gas also produces toxic air pollutants such as formaldehyde and acrolein. These are highly irritating chemicals, and formaldehyde is known to cause cancer. All by themselves, major sources of air pollution, such as gas power plants, are a burden on people who live downwind, and everyone who lives nearby will be downwind of the plant at some time as the winds change. But it is not just the pollutants released by the power plant that affect people. There are already 5 major sources of air pollution located close to Keasbey. It is the total effect, the cumulative effect, of all of the local sources of air pollution that affect people's health. Yet that is not how pollutants have been regulated. Sources of air pollutants are regulated and given permits to pollute one at a time. However, there is a new law in New Jersey, the Cumulative Impacts or Environmental Justice legislation, that is intended to stop cumulative impacts of citing additional sources of air pollution in already overburdened communities. Unfortunately, the regulations enabled by the Cumulative Impacts legislation are just being proposed and will not go into effect for about another year or more. In the meantime, communities that are affected by cumulative impacts of multiple sources of air pollution will have to advocate for themselves. Thank you.
And thank you again to Dr. Lombach for that excellent information. I did just want to elaborate on the point he made that there are other sources of major pollution in this area. I'm sure you see them as you're driving around. You may even feel them as you try to breathe. Again, this would be the 6th gas plant in our county. There are already 2 in Woodbridge, and there are actually 3 in Sayreville, which is a neighboring community on the other side of the Raritan. So we've already got more than enough pollution, more than our fair share, and we're working hard to stop the plans for an additional plant. I want to introduce our next speaker, who is joining us remotely on Zoom. He is Mr. Phil George, the Council President of Highland Park. And that is a community that's been a leader on this critical issue. In October, Council President George and his colleagues unanimously approved the resolution calling for CPB to withdraw their application to build the power plant and calling on Governor Murphy and his DEP to oppose fossil fuel projects in overburdened environmental justice communities like this one. And since then, Highland Park's Board of Ed has also joined the list of government entities formally opposing the plan. Council President, thank you for being with us today. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Gradeville. I appreciate the opportunity to speak. Good afternoon to Tina Weishaus, our chair in Highland Park of the Sustainable Highland Park Group, which brought the sponsorship of our resolution back in September to the council through the Public Works Department when we passed it in October. Highland Park has been active in environmental matters for many, many years. Our devotion to the environment, to environmental issues, we even created over 15 acres of woodland bordering the Raritan by allowing our historic dumps to revert to nature. So we have that commitment. I think everybody in town does. This is just absolutely atrocious, as Dr. Rob has just said, the cumulative effect, not only from the plant itself, but the cumulative effect. You may say, well, Highland Park, New Brunswick, we're upwind, we shouldn't get a problem. The wind shifts all the time. We're only 4 miles away. I think someone said it was 7, but actually Highland Park's about 4 miles. And when the wind shifts, we're just as much of a target. You know, the problem that we're trying to do in that Food and Water Watch and all the other associated groups is trying to wake the municipalities up to the fact that everybody has the exposure to this. Hundreds and hundreds of tons of emissions, and they go somewhere. Everybody, I think, because it is on Raritan, you know, on the lower Raritan and near the bay, will just drift out to sea. Even that's horrendous, but that's its own problem. That's another problem. I think one of the biggest factors that Highland Park and the advocates have shown is to get the boards of ed involved. That may be even a tougher battle than it is with the municipal councils voting in favor of a resolution. But it shows that people are beginning to understand on a real-time basis what this pollution means. And I think that the advocacy also needs to aim to stop the DEP's decision-making while they're down the hallway. They're still waiting to get the cumulative effect regulations in place. And it's almost a deception that down the hallway they're working on a program to stop programs that they're in the course of approving. And I think that this is where advocacy and targeting needs to focus very, very clearly. And I think that everyone should follow our lead, quite frankly, and have your boards of education, church groups, social groups. I noticed that a co-sponsor is NAACP. You know, we have overburdened communities across the map in Middlesex County, and we cannot allow this to happen anymore without better organization. Looking behind the factor, pull the curtain back a little bit, as Mr. Cradaville said, we have 300,000 residences in Middlesex County, and the generation in this plan is for 700,000. So they're going to double that. That's just to supply the open market in the inland part of this District 1 grid. That's all it is. It's a moneymaker, but it's certainly not helping us out. And I urge everyone to please go to your municipalities and to your boards of education to oppose this. Thank you, Mr. Cradaville.
Thank you, Council President. If we could just give him a round of applause. Thank you so much. And I would be remiss if I did not also give credit to the mayor of Highland Park, Gail Brill-Mittler, who was also leading on this issue. And thank you to Highland Park for being in the lead, as they often are on important issues like this. Our next speaker is here with us in person. He is a great community leader, part of the NAACP branch here in Perth, Amboy. He is a school teacher as well as a lifelong resident of Woodbridge Township. Please give a warm welcome to my friend Jimmy Dabrowski.
All right. Thank you, Charlie. Good afternoon, everyone. First and foremost, I just want to thank you all so much for being here today, for caring enough about this to be here today. Saturday afternoon, you could be anywhere else right now, but you chose to be here with us. And I really appreciate your commitment because you care enough about your community and our future generations. So thank you once again for that. Yes, my name is Jimmy Dabrowski. I am a proud member of our NAACP Perth Amboy area branch. Our president, Reverend Donna Stewart, unfortunately couldn't join us today. She is at another conference and she sends her regards. She's an amazing leader. We used to meet in this exact room pre-COVID. So this room brings back a lot of great memories. We've been meeting fully remote since then. If you'd ever like to join us, we'd love to have you. Always welcome to our general meetings, Perth Amboy area branch, NAACP, serving Perth Amboy, Woodbridge, Sayreville, South Amboy, and Carteret, also the 19th legislative district. I'm also a proud Perth Amboy public school teacher, as Charlie mentioned, where I've had the honor and privilege of serving my amazing students at E.J. Patton Elementary School for over 17 years now. I love my students. I love all kids. That's why I'm an elementary school teacher. And building yet another toxic power plant in our overburdened environmental justice community is the complete and total opposite of what they deserve. In fact, I was just at my own son's elementary school track meet in Woodbridge earlier, and after being diagnosed with asthma when he was only 1 year old, he was very lucky just to be able to compete today. I'll never forget the night we had to rush him to the hospital in an ambulance because he could hardly breathe. I soon found out that the Middlesex County air quality is some of the lowest in the state of New Jersey, which was most likely the cause of my child's respiratory illness. Adding more air pollution is the last thing that we need here. And according to the sobering report that recently came out from the United Nations Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, or the IPCC, more air pollution is the last thing we need anywhere. What needs to happen is political courage, stated environmentalist and economist Inger Anderson, who also serves as executive director of the United Nations Environment Program. She spoke about that IPCC report. And speaking of political courage, we're very proud of the municipalities that have thus far formally stood against this proposed power plant by passing a resolution in opposition to it. So shout out to the Edison Council, Highland Park Council, Hoboken Council, Highland Park Board of Education, and also to the Perth Amboy Green Team, who unanimously voted to recommend that the Perth Amboy City Council also pass this vital resolution in opposition to this toxic power plant. I was actually just there this past Wednesday night at the Perth Amboy City Council with Charlie and a few other advocates. And we were talking after the meeting, and the topic came up about, let's see, a few of us were talking about after the meeting, how this power plant wouldn't even be powering Middlesex County, but it would be powering Monmouth County nearby. I made the thoughtless comment, why can't they just build it in Monmouth County then? But thankfully, one of my new friends corrected me and said we shouldn't be building more dirty fossil fuel power plants anywhere. Never mind the fact that Monmouth County also has more than its share of overburdened environmental justice communities. Not as much as Middlesex, but plenty. In fact, out of 564 municipalities in the entire state of New Jersey, a whopping 310 of them have been identified as overburdened under New Jersey's environmental justice law. On September 18, 2020, Governor Murphy signed this landmark environmental justice law, which requires the New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection, the New Jersey DEP, to evaluate the environmental and public health impacts of certain facilities on overburdened communities when reviewing certain permit applications. Thanks to the tireless work of New Jersey's environmental justice advocates, New Jersey is the first state in the nation to require mandatory permit denials if an environmental justice analysis determines a new facility will have a disproportionately negative impact on overburdened communities. It's up to us, this is where we come in, it's up to us to use our collective voice and our collective power to let Governor Murphy know that he needs to uphold New Jersey's environmental justice law and deny the air permits to stop this power plant from further harming our environmental justice community. I also want to say gracias a mi amigo Daniel Jiménez para traducirlo. So necesitamos que parar esta planta de contaminación. Por favor. So gracias a todos. Thank you, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your day. Also, one quick for the NAACP Perth Amboy branch. We've been here 80 years, 81 now. NAACP in general, over 110. So these are really historic civil rights organizations, we'd love to have you because this is the kind of thing that we do. We stand up for environmental justice, social justice. We fight for what's right, whatever the case may be. So thanks again, everybody, for your time.
Thank you so much, Jimmy. Proud to be in this fight with you. Did want to elaborate really quickly. Jimmy mentioned something about Monmouth County. This is what CPB's attorneys have said, is that the first plant, the one that was already built, is to serve the Jersey Shore area. They say this one will serve this area, but I just want to clarify what their side of the story is. To be 100% honest with you, I don't trust what they say. And I do think that it is apparent to anyone who can do math that we have more than enough electricity from the existing plants we have. And as a society, we have to decide what we're going to be doing for the future, right? What we have is what we have, and we have to decide whether we want to change. And the technology does exist. What we need is the political will to not build more polluting power plants that will accelerate the climate crisis. We can do it. It's up to the decision makers today to decide how we're going to get our electricity in the future. And so thank you, Jimmy, for your leadership on all this. Our next speaker is the Raritan Riverkeeper. Bill Schultz has been with that organization for quite some time, and he is a leader in protecting our waterways, making sure that people who want to use them for recreation and be able to enjoy them for generations to come can. And so we're so lucky to have him with us in this fight. He's also a member of the Perth Amboy Green Team, and we are very lucky to have him with us today. Please, ladies and gentlemen, welcome Raritan Riverkeeper Bill Schultz.
Thank you, Charlie. You've heard how horrible this plant is and the effects on the environment. One of the things I'd like to bring up is the broken promises. Charlie mentioned how some of these industries are not to be trusted. When they proposed the first power plant, it is built on an industrial tract, previously vacant land. Maybe some positives to the Woodbridge Township area in another industry coming in. To make it more palatable, I guess, what we were promised is a lot of public access. There's a large plot of land behind the existing plant. And on that land, we were promised that we would have public access through actually an educational area of freshwater wetlands immediately behind the plant, separated by an earthen berm that with walkways atop it, leading to a salt marsh, which would explain the saltwater environment and the life forms that come with that, and a kayak launch on a small creek that feeds through the area and empties out into the Raritan River. All this was supposed to be available by 2016. It's now 2022. There is no public access. You're not even allowed on the property. The proposed plant is next to the original plant. The area that we're talking about for public access was behind. So they can't say that, well, because of the second plant coming in, we're going to build it on the area that was supposed to be public access. No, they're just lying to you. So the industry has proven to us that they really can't be trusted in what their promises are. And we have to look at that and see where we move from there. Beyond that, for the science and the numbers and how horrible the pollution is, I'll revert back to Charlie. And thank you.
Thank you so much, Bill. Thank you for the important work that you do. I think you summed it up very well. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. We should know by now not to trust folks like Competitive Power Ventures. And I'm glad that we're on the same page about that. I do want to hand it off to our final speaker today before we open it up to questions. Paula Roven is a retired New York City public school teacher and one of the leaders of the Don't Gas the Meadowlands Coalition that was so instrumental in stopping the plans for a huge gas plant in North Bergen. And Paula continues to fight for clean air and climate justice. Some of you may have seen her in Perth, Amboy this week, helping me hand out flyers. And we're just so lucky to have her in this fight. Paula, are you able to share your screen if you have slides, or you just want to talk? Great. Okay, please give Paula a warm welcome. I don't think we can hear you.
Is that better?
Yep.
Okay, like the other teacher who spoke. I think that is the children are my motivation for involvement in this whole fight to stop these power plants. And I want to share. Charlie asked me to share with you some of what we did to stop some of the other power plants further north. And there are some people probably in the room and on Zoom who have been part of these fights. And I know that we can all guarantee that we will continue to help you stop this power plant. We will do everything we can to stop the power plant in Woodbridge. So let me just quickly go through these slides. It could have been an hour long, but I'm going to make it really quick. We had a number of community meetings like the one you're having today. We had them in churches and community centers throughout Bergen County and Hudson County to try to stop the Meadowlands power plant, which would have been in North Bergen. We got 52 town councils to pass resolutions opposing the Meadowlands power plant. And we did a similar process to what you're doing and what we did around the New Jersey Transit fight. We met with elected officials. Now, I'm not bragging about our meeting with Congressman Pascrell's staff because he never took a stand. And so we have to, where we can't get people to support the fight to end the use of fossil fuels, some of them are going to have to be replaced by people who do support this fight to stop the use of fossil fuels. We put up billboards, and for each billboard, we had press conferences and rallies. This one was up on the New Jersey Turnpike, where it was seen by probably millions of people over the time it was up. And again, we had a press conference at the site. And if you put up a billboard in your area, we certainly will help raise money, but also just always find a billboard that's very accessible so you can have a rally or a press conference. We had a lot of students involved in the fight, and that's one of the reasons Charlie and I went to some public schools on Thursday and Friday to hand out leaflets, because it's so important that young people are involved. It's about their future, and they're a lot more bold and courageous than a lot of adults. So I think we can count on them to help lead these fights. Right before the big march that we organized with the students organized with us, there was an art build, student-led art build in Ridgefield. And then these are some pictures from that march. I know several of you who are here today were at that march. It was incredible. There it is. At that march, Romina Rojas talked, and she gave a strong speech about the issue of environmental justice. And it's really important that that issue be brought up at all of our, in all of our work on this issue. We bird dog Governor Murphy all over the place. Wherever we found out that he was going to be. He was swearing people in for their town, into their town councils. He really makes a habit of going to many, many town councils to swear people in. Perfect place to bird dog him. Whether we were outside as in Palisade Park or inside in Englewood. We were at Teaneck High School, and we had a rally outside before the meeting, and then we had a plan inside. And at one moment, we all stood up and with signs and chants. And the governor does love to have photo ops, so you can see our photo up there with the governor. Yeah. But, you know, he says he's for environmental justice and he's against the, you know, he wants to end the use of fossil fuels, and he continues to, support the use of fossil fuels. So we have a very difficult fight ahead to get him to help stop these projects. This is the New Jersey Transit fight. Where they wanted to build a power plant for emergencies, like during Sandy, when the power went out. We had a very big fight to stop the gas plant in Kearney. We worked really, really hard, did some of the same things, getting resolutions, getting elected officials on our side. But and we won. The governor announced that they would pivot, New Jersey Transit would pivot from a gas plant to renewable energy microgrid. And they have since gone back on the promise. And so we're back there fighting the fight again, unfortunately. But on that New Jersey Transit, we also bird dogged the governor at some of his events. We went to board meetings at NJ Transit. We demonstrated outside and spoke inside. And then during the pandemic, when we said, what are we going to do? There are no more in-person meetings. We actually organize meetings on the phone. And a lot of the meetings right now around the state are still hybrid, as is New Jersey Transit. So the last meeting, which was this week, we had a group of people in person, and we had a whole bunch of people calling in on the phone, speaking up. We had a huge youth-led climate march. Lots and lots of students participated. We had forums like the one you're having today. And we had a really awesome kayaction, paddle and march for our lungs. The students were not allowed to be in the kayaks because of their age, so they led a march, and the rest of us kayaked to the site of the proposed Kearney plant. The final, and I'll be real quick, the final involvement that we had, or the third involvement we had, which is still going on right now, is we were asked by environmental justice leaders in the Ironbound and in larger Newark area to help stop the PVSC, Passaic Valley Sewerage Commission power plant in the Ironbound, which is another seriously overburdened community, seriously overburdened by pollution. And so we've been working extremely hard together. It's been very exciting and also very difficult to defeat this power plant. We're going to win, though. This was the art build for the march in last November. This is we had a march a rally in the beginning, and then a march to the PVSC, an area which is so incredibly polluted. And we had a rally at the end. There we have a billboard that'll be up for another couple of weeks. And if there's a website, stopdumpingonnewark.org. You can go there or text clean air to 23321 if you want to get involved. There's some action that you can take. And here we are. Some of you may have been there. We were at the dedication. Somebody mentioned before, we were at the groundbreaking for the New Jersey Transit facility, and the governor was there and all sorts of officials, and And we were there and we were very loud and very clear. No, no gas plant, no gas plant. And they heard us. They had to hear us. We were loud and clear. So I just wanted to share that with you and just again, offer the support. And I think I can do it. I think I can do it, offer the support of people from around the state. You know, we have 7 fights we're fighting around fossil fuel facilities. If we don't stick together, we can't win. If we stick together, we can win this. We can stop these power plants and these polluting facilities. We have to win and we will. So call on us whenever you need. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Paula. Very inspirational and proof positive that we can win when we work together, we work smart, we get organized, we get educated, and we get involved. So thank you for your work, Paula. We're so lucky to have you helping us here in Central Jersey. She's got the shirt that says, "We say no to Meadowlands Power Plant," puts a little piece of duct tape over Meadowlands and it says Woodbridge. So you can reuse the shirt for each project. And thank you again for coming to Perth, Amboy, and Woodbridge to help here. Paul was our final speaker. We do have some time for questions. And I did, before we get to those, just let you know the next steps, the actions that we can take. So we do have a Central Jersey volunteer team that meets every other Saturday at 11 a.m. on Zoom. And it has been, since January, we've been growing. We've had over 50 people participate. And we would love to have some of the 40+ people on the Zoom call join us next Saturday morning for that. And of course, all of you here in person, you can feel free to make sure you sign in at the front desk. And we will invite you to that Zoom meeting, again, 1 week from today at 11 a.m. and every other week thereafter. It's usually not longer than an hour. We cover a lot, mainly focused on this particular project, the proposal to build another power plant in Caseby, but we also keep folks informed about these other fights. We do have a statewide Zoom meeting that'll be taking place on May 31st for everybody around the state of New Jersey that's with us in this fight, and we are working towards a big action. I can tell you June 23rd, you'll want to make sure you're available. It is a Thursday, and we are going to be heading to Trenton to make our voices heard on all 7 of the fossil fuel projects that are putting us in danger. And ultimately, we're going to show up at the state capitol on a day when all the legislators are there. And we're hoping to have in excess of 100 people come out and march and rally there in the middle of the day. So it is something you want to plan ahead for. Hopefully, those of you who are involved in the school system, hopefully your school will be finishing up by then. And if you do have work during the day, please take the day off and join us in Trenton. We will be able to provide transportation from Woodbridge for anybody who wants to join us. And we'll be gathering at the War Memorial, which is right around the corner from the State House at 10:30 a.m. on June 23rd. Those of you who have signed in or signed up for this event will get follow-up invitations for that. Again, if you have not yet taken the 30 seconds to complete the quick petition to Governor Murphy, please do that. That's the least we can do to raise this to him, and we'll be doing a lot more in the weeks and months to come. So thank you all for being here. I'm happy to take any questions you have. We did say that the meeting would end at 4, but I'm happy to stay longer if anybody wants to ask questions. Maybe we can start with folks who are here in the room and then get to Zoom. Yes, Mr. Lund.
Charlie, when I was taking environmental science at Rutgers, one of our teachers did mention that a lot of the air quality is affected by what's going on in the Midwest, for example. So a lot of the prevailing westerly winds is bringing us a lot of the activity in the Midwest. And I understand that if we control it here, at least we're not contributing, to wherever the jet stream and the prevailing westerlies would carry and so forth. So I get the concept. But at the same time, air quality, a lot of it is out of our immediate control here in New Jersey. Likewise, if we rein in the greenhouse gases, you still have other nations like China that are not overly concerned with environmental cause, and whereas we may pull back and have a slight impact on global climate, if we don't have the cooperation of other nations that are much greater, it feels like we're making big sacrifices and not really reaping the benefits. That's the first part of the question. The second part of the question is that the number one greenhouse gas is far more potent than illuminants. You probably know because you're involved in this. So what greenhouse gas, to your knowledge, is the most potent and the most abundant on the earth?
I'll be honest, I do not know the answer to that question.
Water vapor. Water. Yeah, water vapor. Okay. Which there's a water cycle on the earth. There's not much that man's behavior can do to impact that. So what I'm really wondering ultimately is where are we going with this? California's been much more aggressive on environmental policy, and they're facing rolling blackouts because they don't have the storage capacity of solar. Solar is good during the day, not so good during the evening. And they estimate it would take trillions of dollars in storage capacity. So in other words, the technology is not there to even store that. I don't want to live with rolling blackouts. I don't want to live where my energy costs are skyrocketing. I mean, there's no justice in that for me or for the people who are poorer than I. So these are all tied in together, and I wonder if you could address that.
Yeah, thank you for your input. I do want to point out that methane is one of the more potent greenhouse gases.
The cow farms, yes, but we're not going to get rid of the cows anytime.
Not talking about that. I'm talking about where this gas comes from for the Casey power plant.
Okay.
It comes from fracking drilling that has its own set of issues and is ruining people's water supply in Pennsylvania and other places where they are doing the drilling.
Is it?
Yes.
Okay.
And I know firsthand, I worked on this issue in Pennsylvania, and you know, along the, you know, it doesn't just magically make its way to New Jersey. There's a network of pipelines that are imperfect, and the methane does leak along the way. It also, a lot of it gets out just in the drilling process. It's called fugitive emissions. It escapes, they can't capture it, it gets into the atmosphere, and upwards of 10 times as potent as CO2 in terms of accelerating global warming greenhouse effect. And
Relative volume of that? It may be more potent, but what's the comparative volume in the schema?
I do not know, but I do know that building new gas infrastructure leads to more fugitive emissions, and that's something that often is not calculated when people say things like it's cleaner than coal or better than coal, is they're forgetting about all this methane that's getting out directly into the atmosphere. And indeed, sometimes, you know, obviously when you burn it, you get all these other pollutants in the air too. So definitely not something we need more of here. I agree with you. We don't want rolling blackouts. I don't think anybody is calling for that or supporting that. But you know, we certainly have more than enough electricity generation in this county to meet our needs, and we are in a position where we are apparently exporting electricity to other counties, perhaps even other states through the grid. And you know, there's this concept of the sacrifice zone, where you know, one area gets all the industry, all the bad things to benefit everybody else. And unfortunately, what we're seeing is you know, this kind of corridor along you know, the turnpike and you know, the northeast corridor, where we're getting all the gas infrastructure. Again, this would be the third in Woodbridge. There's already 3 in Sayreville, 2 in Linden, and it's way more than we need. And just on your point on technology, the technology does exist, and you're right that it is in many cases expensive. The consequences of not making the transition are much more expensive. Consequences for human life, consequences for property, consequences for the economy. We saw, you know, Hurricane Ida less than a year ago did really set New Jersey back, and you know, 30 people or more lost their lives as a result of that storm. So if we're not including that in the cost analysis, that's a mistake too. That's my opinion. We'll get back to you in a second. Sid has something to say.
Yeah, the question about does New Jersey need more, the Board of Public Utilities had a study done. And the result in December, this past December, 2021, was that New Jersey does not need any more gas plants, period. Which to emphasize the point you made earlier, these companies are doing this because they can make money, not because it's needed in New Jersey. And if people don't know it, there's another agency called Perth, Federal Energy Regulation Commission, that allows 14% return on money from these folks. They're in it for the money. They're not in it for you. They're going to lie up and down the road. And by the way, in terms of China, China is producing more solar and more than the rest of the world combined in most years. So while China is a big contributor in coal plants and other things, they are making an effort. They're just a lot further behind us. And they are doing a lot in terms of solar, in terms of wind, and in terms of hydro. So they'll be there, they'll just be behind us. If we don't do this, the consequences for our kids when it goes past 1.5 degrees Celsius global warming is just tremendously disastrous. And anybody that doesn't understand that, you just need to read up and understand.
Thank you, Sid. I do also want to address, the other power plant in Woodbridge. Obviously, you saw the CPV power plant. The other one was a PSE&G project called C. Warren 7 in the C. Warren section of Woodbridge. And you can look it up. Last year, PSE&G decided to sell their gas power plants. Even PSE&G is acknowledging that this is not the way to go in the future, and they're moving away from that. So I think that we can acknowledge that in New Jersey we've already got more than our fair share, and we definitely don't need to be building more. I do see a hand raised on the Zoom, so if we can try this, is that Lilia?
Yes, hi, Charlie. Thank you so much. I've been unable to attend the previous meetings, but I'm so glad. I appreciate the presentation you gave and the information that you're sharing with the public. I wanted to speak to the issue of what other nations, the polluting that other nations are doing. China, if they're polluting, it's because they're producing consumer goods for us here in the US. All the products that we buy at Target, at Home Depot, at Marshall's, wherever you go shopping, those are products that are no longer being produced here in the United States, but that Americans are still consuming. So to point the finger at China and say, well, they're the big polluters and we're concerned about them is really missing the point entirely. The news this week reported that temperatures in India have reached 120 degrees. Now, we may not care about what's happening in India because that's all the way across the world, but guess what? It's going to come here. We are going to get 120-degree temperatures at some point in our lifetime or in our children's lifetime. So we really need to be concerned about the ongoing greenhouse gases pollution that natural gas and petroleum, oil, and all these things are doing, and need to really be more courageous, bold, and committed to more sustainable sources of energy. And to the other point about, the rolling blackouts and everything, the point is that we need to be reducing our energy consumption as citizens of this country, as members of the planet, of the society, of the world we live in. So rather than thinking, well, I want to make sure I have enough heat or gas, or air conditioning to cool my house or to warm my house or to power my, big flat screen TV, we need to be thinking about how do we reduce our energy consumption to literally save the planet. So that's my comment, Charlie. Thank you again to all the presenters as well. Very informative presentations.
Well, thank you so much, Lilia. I did want to just add to that, yeah, one thing we're seeing a lot of these days is folks are getting electric cars. Well, that doesn't help the issue if the power is coming from dirty sources like fossil fuels. So we really need to move our generation capacity to a cleaner, more sustainable path. And thank you for your input there.
Someone can, Charlie, can I just add, someone made a great point on in the Zoom chat right now, April Nicholas, the cleanest energy is the energy we don't use. So I just want to put that out there for the folks in the room.
Thanks for that. Mr. Maris.
Thank you, Charles. I appreciate it. And Matt, I want to thank everybody that spoke. Mr. Nabrowski, the other gentleman. We don't always agree, as you may well know, but just as I don't want to get into the weeds on all this, but I will tell you that I grew up in this area since the 1950s. Born in Newark, I remember when we had a lot of industries, Arborendum, National Lead, American Smelting Refining. Some of those who I worked with would be carbide, and they were great for movements. That's why we have the problems with the debate that we have now. So I'm very sensitive. I've also spent 25 years in the petrochemical industry all around the world. I've lived in China, I've lived in Japan, I've been to Fukushima, I've been in the Middle East for a number of years. So all of that is not unknown to me, and I know what that brings to the environment. I was actually in Kuwait during the oil fires. I hope that's something nobody ever sees again. Again, I don't want to get into the weeds, and I don't want to go into the fear mongering about God, we're protecting the kids, this or the other thing. The real problem with this thing right now, as the one gentleman said, is the economics of it. And Woodbridge Township is standing strong on this through Mayor McCormick and this town council because they want the money. And it's through the pilot programs. And people need to understand those pilot programs do not help the children in schools. They degrade the amount of money that goes into the schools. It puts it into the mayor's general fund where he can spend it. So the school system is lucky if they get 25% out of it when he doles it out to them. In fact, I just inquired the Board of Education. They get about $6.9 million back from the township to pay off bond debts. And then McCormick hands out other things. So we really need to get the community galvanized, because I agree with you. I don't want to see this power plant here. I don't want to see it because it adds to the concentration. Is it as harmful as everybody's trying to make it out? That's debatable, but I know we don't need it here. And we don't need it because we don't need the extra economics going into politicians' pockets to dole out as they choose. So I would work with you gladly to stand, and you know that I've been before the town councils and have said this, to defeat this project. And any way I can help you do that, I will be glad to do it. And thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. You raise an issue with what's called pilot is the 30-year tax exemption.
Correct.
That the municipal council granted, and we see them granted for all kinds of projects, housing to warehouses. But perhaps the most egregious is when they're bringing in something that does nothing for the community except make our air harder to breathe. Yes. So yeah, I think we can all agree they don't need any discounts on their taxes. I see we're blessed to have the chair of Sustainable Highland Park, Tina Weishaus.
Hi, I thought the speakers were great, and I just want to address the point that the first questioner made about if, well, you know, whatever we do here is negligible, and, you know, it's the, everybody else has to be doing it. And so I think that people should know that they can work at every level, and they should be working at every level. You fight in the communities where you are, and you support the people that are facing the worst impacts. And then you fight at the state level, or as Paula has pointed out, you coordinate with other fights around the state, because together we are stronger. And then we fight at the state level for legislation like the EJ law that should never have taken 12 years to pass. But now that it's passed, it's not being implemented. You fight for the regulations, and you fight to make sure that no new power plants happen before those regulations are in place. And you fight for the regulations to protect areas that are already environmentally overburdened and have cumulative impact. And then you fight at the national level, and you fight at the global level. But fighting at the local level for many people is much easier. It's much more, it feels more impactful. You work with your neighbors. One isn't better than the other. All of it has to be done. And so I encourage everybody to think at every level, but then fight where you are. If there is a power plant, I didn't expect to be involved in Woodbridge because I didn't think there was going to be a power plant in my neighborhood. But lo and behold, it's just a few miles away, and it affects all the children in Highland Park and all the children in the hundreds of miles that will be, receiving that particulate matter that lodges in the air sacs of children and stays with them their whole lives and makes for, emergency room visits as a result of asthma and all of that. So, I think that people just, it's very overwhelming, but I think it's very empowering to get involved. And we should all be, now that we have, this meeting and we have more people aware based on really excellent presentations, we should be building and reaching out more and not being discouraged that what we do isn't important. What we do is the most important thing that can happen. And it can happen at every level, at the community, at the county. We should be going to Middlesex County and demanding that they not put another power plant in our neighborhoods, and that we go to the state on June 23rd with Food and Water Watch or whatever, organization, and that we go to our, the nation and globally. We fight with other countries that are suffering from 120 degrees, as is Phoenix, Arizona, suffering from 120 degrees. So I just want to say that I don't think, causing, people to feel like what they do isn't important. It is vitally important, vitally for our lives, vitally important.
Thank you, Tina. And thank you for your leadership in getting Highland Park and the Board of Ed in Highland Park to take a stand and do great work at Sustainable Highland Park. For those of you who don't know me, I am a big supporter of getting involved locally. The changes that you can make will have a lasting impact on you, your family, your neighbors, and that's why I try to go to as many planning board meetings and zoning board meetings and local council meetings, because that's where it's the change is the most effective and the most noticeable for you in your life. So I definitely encourage everybody to pursue local change and work your way up. That's where it all starts, at the grassroots. I do see another hand on Zoom. Is that my good friend Lindy?
Okay, yes. I'm Lindy, and I just wanted to reiterate about this not benefiting the school children. If they give any money back to the school district, in your district, it's more than, they don't have to, that's at their pleasure. That's if they feel generous, they can give some of that pilot money in lieu of tax payment. Ask New Brunswick, because we never see a penny of it back to the school district. And so the kids just get, left out of the loop, the whole education system. And I also wanted to piggyback on what Tina said. It's so important to be involved at the local level where we can actually participate, interface with our neighbors and be part of something to be the change, not just for our physical health, for our mental health, to not just look around. And that's why so many people are depressed and anxious about the situation. I think if you're actively involved, that helps to it just helps us to feel better. That's all.
Thanks, Lindy. It can feel lonely out there at times, but it's so great whenever I'm on a council meeting call and you're also on the call, or other people are joining in and we get to share space and work together. So thank you for doing what you do. Do I see another question from Mr. Lund?
Yeah, listen, I think I fell into a trap. I want you to know, I care about clean air and clean water. I did get my environmental science degree because I love nature. My wife and I love doing hiking on a nature trail. What I'm saying, I think the point I was making, the broader point, is that there's a lot of zeal and passion and feelings around this issue, but not always according to knowledge. And when I was studying under Professor Manganelli back in the day, he said there's a difference between environmental scientists and environmentalists. He said a lot of environmentalists, they do get involved for the cause aspect, the social aspect, but they don't necessarily have the same discipline to get below the surface and really look at the facts, the cost benefit. You're talking about changing our economy and our energy supply. That's great. If we can go to hydrogen cell cars, I'd be the first to buy one. Water vapor for exhaust? Are you kidding me? It's great. All I'm saying is that a lot of people, as you brought out, Charlie, think that electric cars are an answer, despite the strip mining that goes into providing the cobalt and nickel and other rare metals that go into the battery. But of course, electric cars derive their ultimate energy and recharging from the electric grid, right? So all I'm saying is let's just interject a little bit more knowledge here so that we're better armed to take on the powers that be. And that when we go to change the economy, we don't end up with unintended consequences. You know what happens in wind farms and solar farms and how birds of prey have been decimated by these big solar farms out in the Southwest. And what to do with all these blades that get pitted and broken up while they're doing the wind turbines, and the unreliability right now as the technology stands of alternative energies. So all I'm saying, I'm trying to bring nuance to the conversation. I'm not trying to poo-poo what you're trying to do.
I do appreciate that. And I hope you know from what you know of me that I'm a very factual person. I love to do research. I love to be armed with the facts. And there's been a couple times in Woodbridge where I've had the facts and the powers that be were maybe learned something from the things I've brought up at their meetings. So, definitely, think we need to look at everything holistically. And, quite frankly, it's CPV that's proposing a big change here. They are the ones who want to make the situation worse for Middlesex County. And quite frankly, I don't think they care at all about Middlesex County. They used to be based on the East Coast. Now they're not even based in the United States. And, the reality is we need to look out for ourselves and do the research and do the analysis to be able to press our decision makers to do the right thing. And so I look forward to working with all of you on that. Are there other questions in the room or on Zoom? Yes.
So I'd just love to speak on some of the facts of the situation. I was wondering if you were aware of the cause of the local blackout in California last year. Do you know what it was?
Well, first of all, it was a huge, as you're going to climate event, where it was very extremely warm.
Not an event.
And they didn't have enough stored energy.
So just one correction, it wasn't an event. This is a complete change in our West. And for the past about 10 years, there has been an extreme drought situation in the American West, not only California, but most of the West. And every year they refer to it as a record-setting drought. For the past 2 years or so, they've said this is not a yearly drought. This is the acidification of the American West. So this is a completely different situation than it's ever been before. So you have people who are moving to California, Sunbelt cities, Phoenix, Las Vegas, people are going there by the millions to this aridifying region. That is what caused these blackouts. Increase in demand in these places that are not sustainable whatsoever and become less and less sustainable. So what you're referring to, or I'm not going to put it personality, but what many people are referring to is the idea that let's keep our economy the way it is. Let's find ways to keep things the way they are, the status quo. That's over. We have to move on to that. It's not only power, it's water. That was the thing. When I was living in California about 3 years ago, we had limits on 3 Ps per flush. They were literally telling us that. That's what you have to do in California. That is the cause of these local factors. And that's why we want to prevent that here, because I don't want to be in that same situation. I don't want our area to start overflowing. I don't want to be in these 123 weather events that are not going to be events. This is the new normal. So the point is stopping what we can stop, but at the same time recognizing that it's already a passive point. We have to move to something different. We can't cling on to the way we grew up to be in the 1950s when we raised our kids back in the 1950s and 60s. We have to think about the kids that are children now and what they're going to face. What's important is their lives, not powered by large television and for everything to go back to work. So that is the knowledge, those are the facts, and that's all I want to say. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you everyone for contributing to the discussion today. I really am pleased with the input and the turnout. And I think that, the takeaway here is we need to work together. All these different perspectives come together for the better. The more that we can find ways to make positive change and stop bad changes from happening to our community, will benefit ourselves and our next generation. Food and Water Watch is an organization that started to protect our water and healthy, affordable food. And increasingly over the years, the biggest threat to those things has been the climate crisis. So we found ourselves doing a lot of work on climate change and clean energy, because if we don't do that, water and food are going to be harder and harder to come by. And we are committed to protecting our water and our food, as well as our air and our climate. So thank you all for being a part of the event today. For those of you who are here in person, if you're not in a hurry, we could pose for a quick picture in front of this beautiful wall over here. And for those of you on Zoom, thank you for joining. We are going to, I believe we got a proper recording of this, so we will post the recording on our Food and Water Watch New Jersey Facebook page in case you missed any of it. And in case there were any questions I didn't get to, you can certainly follow up with our organization or me personally. I'll just tell you my cell phone number, 732-993-9697. Call me anytime. We're all in this together. And it's been an honor and a pleasure to speak to you today. Thank you so much.